So let me get started by welcoming her today. Dr. Rackner, are you with us?
I am, Patrick. Thank you so much for the invitation to join you.
Well, thank you for taking time out there. I know you're still working from your area there, up in Minnesota.
Correct.
And so here I am in Texas. The technology is wonderful to allow us to talk like this and for people to watch our discussion about this.
Right, exactly. Well, I am really excited because I really want to help doctors thrive. And I know that your licensees are a really important component. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. So I know that the people on the webinar are trying to decide, how do they get to where they want to be professionally and personally and financially. And I'd just like to give you my take about, whether or not an investment in ABS might be a good investment for you. So I know that whenever I take a look at a business opportunity, I ask three basic questions. First of all, is there a market for these services? We know that big businesses come and go. We know that there are things that are being outsourced outside of the United States. So as you're thinking about a business opportunity, is this a growing market or is it a shrinking market? Is there a possibility for high profit? Because after all, this profitability allows you to care for yourself and your family in the way that you wish. And third, is there a proven path to success? And here's the bottom line. I think that if I were going to invest in a business, I think I would take a very, very careful look at becoming an ABS licensee. I think this is a brilliant opportunity. And let me explain to you why. So I am, as Patrick said, a retired general surgeon. I ran my own practice, and so I myself know some of the demands that are required in order to run a medical office. This is a time of very, very big change for doctors. When I got out of residency, about 80% of doctors went into private practice. I was one of them. Things are changing now. In order to be successful when I first got out, you needed to know how to take good care of patients. And if you did, you were pretty much promised success. But that is no longer true. Good patient care today is necessary but not sufficient to be successful as a doctor. There are so many business parts that are required. And unfortunately, nobody ever teaches doctors about how money works, about how business works, about how to grow a practice, about how to market, about how to do selling. And so a lot of doctors, believe it or not, are not rich. They're struggling. In fact, there are doctors who file for bankruptcy, good doctors. So many of these good doctors are thinking, well, gee, maybe what I should do is focus on what I really like to do, which is take care of patients. Let me sell my practice to the hospital or the clinic, and they'll take care of the business part. I'll just see patients. But what they quickly realize is that they have literally sold out. We don't go to medical school to be somebody else's employee. My guess is that you're interested in this opportunity because you want the kind of autonomy. And ABS really offers doctors something different. It allows them to get back to the dream of being able to make a difference in the lives of patients, be their own boss, and be able to provide for themselves and their family the way in which they want. So I know that ABS has literally made the difference between the kind of path that a doctor wants and the kind of path that they sort of feel like they're sold out to. So is this a growing field? The answer is yes. If you take a look at all of the segments in our American economy and you take a look at who is growing, healthcare is growing. I think it's unlikely that heart surgery is ever going to be outsourced to India, although there are people who travel nationally and internationally to have their operations. But this is a community thing. So as you think about working with doctors, this is a growth industry. You know, will doctors need somebody to do their billing? Absolutely. You know, doctors, some of them try to do it themselves. I quickly discovered that this is not a good idea. Like, I've never done my own taxes. It's too complex. And my cash flow, my ability to pay my overhead, to pay my employees, to bring home money to do things like eat, all depended on my revenue cycle. I thought that this was far too important to just be trusted to anyone. So when I started my own practice, one of the first choices that I made, which I'm still so grateful for, was outsourcing my billing. I knew that I wanted to do that for any number of reasons. The most important is that I wanted to make sure that the money was there. I didn't want any questions. And I will just tell you another story that kind of scares me. So when I started out with a partner, and he had an office manager, and she went on vacation, and the first time he tried to hire his wife, because after all, she was smart, she figured she could do the billing, and she quickly threw up her hands. So we hired a temp to do our billing, and this was the nicest lady in the world. You know, she would go out and she would help the elderly patients fill out their paperwork. Well, we got a call from the temp agency letting us know that they just found out that she was a convicted felon, Medicare fraud.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
So this kindness of being out in the waiting room, you know, who knows what she might have stolen. But I think that's kind of a fear of doctors too. You know, do I have my checks and balances in place? You know, is my office manager really doing the right thing? Are they helping themselves to a little something? So having checks and balances, outsourcing things is just good business practice. So there is a market for these services. Doctors are not going away. Billing is not going away, and billing is getting more complex. So the way a doctor gets paid is with every patient encounter, they identify a diagnostic and procedure code. These codes get sent to the insurance companies, and then the insurance companies use those codes to determine payment. So sounds simple enough. This is a system that is not going to go away. You know, even if there are big changes to our healthcare system, I know that there is talk about a single payer system. No matter what happens, you know, doctors are going to need to get paid. They're going to have to send these codes someplace, and somebody's going to give them a check or somebody's going to deny payment. This is here to stay. So I think, you know, billing, revenue cycle management, this is something that is here to stay. And more doctors are sort of seeing the light. You know, there are a lot of doctors who are kind of do-it-yourselfers. You know, we're smart, we can handle this kind of thing. But with all of the challenges in healthcare, this is, it's getting increasingly complex. Patrick, what did you see with your licensees once we made the transition to this new set of codes?
Oh gosh, it was amazing. The codes, when they were coming down, of course, the doctors were all just panicking. When they would call on doctors, they didn't know what to do to get ready for these codes. Now that they've been passed, of course, since our system, our cloud-based system, has all the codes built into it, the doctors absolutely love it because they can be using their iPad in an encounter with a patient, and actually by pushing buttons on the iPad telling why the patient's there, it then starts suggesting the procedure codes that could take care of that patient. So it's amazing that the doctors don't have to know anything about those codes, and neither do our licensees.
Which is absolutely wonderful. Okay, so let me tell you like what really happens in a doctor's office. Okay, so everyone's really busy, right? Especially with all of these changes, there are increased administrative burdens, decreasing payments. In fact, we're facing an epidemic of doctor burnout right now. And one of the, you know, a couple of the chief contributing factors to burnout are, you know, the computer system and also not generating enough revenue. So in the typical office, you know, the busy doctor will fill out the code, maybe the office manager is doing the billing, and then the insurance company, just as a matter of course, rejects about 30% of the claims. And some cynics will say that this is actually a business strategy because if they're not paying the claims immediately, they get to use that money to make money, right? So what happens in a busy office? Well, a lot of times these claims just go in a pile and someone someday is going to look after them. And unfortunately, that someone someday never gets there. Patrick, didn't you hear something about a Porsche drawer?
Yes, one doctor I called on back when I was first starting in the business with my wife, they pointed to a drawer where all the rejected claims were and said, you know, if I could get the money out of that drawer, I could get that Porsche I've always wanted to buy.
And so this is what happens to a lot of doctors. They are like literally leaving money on the exam table. You know, when patients don't pay, oh, great, it's a tax write-off. My income is high enough so that I need it. But if doctors really got serious about this, they could increase their cash flow by 20, 25% within a very short amount of time. Okay, imagine that you know how much you generate each month now. Imagine like overnight you could generate 20% more. I bet that would make a huge difference to you. So doctors are so grateful to get this kind of thing in order, and it offers them hope that they really can get back to the dream that attracted them to a career in medicine. So I have no financial incentive for you becoming a licensee. I'm just here because I want to help doctors, and I know that ABS is an organization of integrity that grooms licensees who are going to help doctors get back to the dream. So that is why I'm here. So answer to question number 1, is there a market? Yes. Question number 2, is this a profitable market? Yes. Because remember, your income that you generate is tied to a doctor's income, right? Because a doctor generates their income by sending off bills with these codes. And your income is going to be tied to the amount of revenue that a doctor collects. Well, according to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, 9 out of the 10 top earners in the U.S. call themselves doctor. So especially if you get smart and you get strategic and maybe you focus on the high-earning doctors, the ologists, the gastroenterologists, dermatologists, cardiologists, there's a possibility that you could be generating a high 6-figure or even a 7-figure income by working smart. Do you have licensees who are doing this, Patrick?
Yes, in fact, I have a picture here. Let me see if I have it in my actual slide deck here, but I'll try to look for this. This is a picture of one of our licensees who I'm going to be interviewing here week after next, and she's just done such a terrific job of getting this business off the ground. Jade Giannakopoulos. I'm sorry, I messed up her last name, but anyway, we'll learn how to pronounce that when she's on the webinar. And, anyway, so I have stories that those webinar interviews that I mentioned to you earlier, for example, Vicki, I've got dozens of them. And in fact, I was showing some of those in some slides here. I'll be putting some of those on the screen while we continue to talk. But let's talk about the money that can be made, because again, some people don't know how to relate to, you know, the money that doctors are able to make, and is there a high profit there? I have a chart here that I'll just show, Vicki, that just, I want you to confirm these things as a doctor, that I'm not just making these numbers up, because it'd be easy for me to do that, right? It's my business, and so I try to show people the potential that's here. This is the lifetime value of one loyal client. In other words, if you were in this business doing medical billing for doctors and you had one doctor that was doing 400 claims a month. Now, let's start with that. Dr. Vicki, let's say this is a general practitioner. That's 100 claims a week. Is that practical that a doctor could see that many patients? Or?
Yes, it is.
I didn't know if some doctors see more than that, probably. Some see less, I guess.
Yes. So these are interesting numbers for, you know, somebody in primary care. But let's take my practice, my surgical practice.
Yeah.
Okay, an appendectomy was $2,000, a colectomy was $5,000, Laparoscopic splenectomy was 10,000. So instead of the average claim being 120, just put a 0 on that and divide the number of claims sent out from my practice by 10 or 20.
Yep.
So you can see that the potential is really high. You know, the average orthopedic surgeon just starting out from fellowship earns about $480,000. And all of that is from billing. You know, there are very few orthopedic surgeons. So let's say that a starting orthopedic surgeon, you know, bills out $600,000 in services. And you collect 7% of that. Not too bad.
No, it's not. I can't even do that math. Wait, was that 600,000? Yeah, times 7%. Yeah, that's 42,000 just for that one client.
Right. And doctors tend to be loyal clients. So especially if you target smart, I mean, there is the potential for profit. And I think, Patrick, you had mentioned to me that some of your licensees are actually generating higher salaries than the doctors for whom they bill.
You know, that's the weird thing is I've actually had licensees call me up and say, Patrick, I'm at the point where I'm making more money, you know, than any of the doctors that I'm working for. I happen to know how much money they make, right? I know what they're bringing in at least, and I'm netting more than some of my doctors. So that's a good point to be at. You certainly gain a lot of confidence when you're making as much money as the prospective client is.
Absolutely. So question number 2 is there a potential for a highly profitable business? The answer is yes. Would you like to say more about that, Patrick?
Well, no, I was about to open up that keynote presentation I had with the slides of some of the licensees that have actually, you know, been very successful in the business. I'll just throw them back up on the screen here kind of as we're talking. We can kind of talk about some of these because some of them are wonderful stories. I condensed these into little bitty things here. Like, let me show you, let's see, let me pause that and show you this one. This is, here we go. Okay, that should be coming up with Robin. She's here in Texas. You know, it just says, I put a little blurb, has 12 doctors, 2 employees, and still works from home. Now, that doesn't sound too exciting, but when you do the math, she's making a really nice income with 12 doctors, not one like we were just showing on the screen, 12. And she still has 2 employees. Guess who those are? That's her mom and dad. Yeah. She's a single mom, so she hired her dad and mom. They work in the business with her. And they still work from her home. She had a room built onto the home, Vicki, and a separate little entrance and everything. So that's her office.
That's great. That's just great. I love it.
Yeah. But I mean, the stories, I could go on and on with these stories. There's people out there that I've interviewed, Vicki, when I first interviewed them, I was shocked by what they were telling me. The stories they were telling me were just way beyond my comprehension. I had to go visit some of them, in fact, to see if it was true. Here's one. This is Janet. She's up in Ohio. She has 20 doctors and a staff of 7 full-time employees. Now, I didn't believe it, so I went up and visited her, and I took this picture myself of her and their employees. It's a 2,500 square foot office. It's beautiful. They've just got a machine running there, and these numbers are from about 4 years ago when I visited her. I'm sure she has more than 20 doctors and 7 people now.
Well, that is wonderful. That is just really wonderful. The third important question is, how did they do it? You know, how did they get there? And here's the thing that's important for you to know. It's that doctors are wired differently than business-minded people. And the core difference really has to do with our relationship with money and our relationship with business. So if you went to a business-minded person with a value proposition, you know, I can increase your cash flow by 20% over the next 60 days, and here's how I do it. Man, a business-minded person would be right on board. The problem, though, is that doctors are not really interested in that kind of conversation. It's really, really hard to do. It has to do with the culture of medicine. So in order to be a good doctor, we uphold this ethic that the care that a patient gets should be divided from a patient's ability to pay. So we're kind of taught not to talk about money. It's our ultimate taboo topic. And patients have things they don't like talking about, maybe even you. I call them the embarrassing P's: peeing, pooping, and procreating. And I had a patient literally die of embarrassment. She was too embarrassed to tell the doctor about the blood in her stool. By the time the colon cancer that had been causing the bleeding was finally diagnosed, her colon cancer was widely metastatic and she succumbed to the disease.
Wow.
Well, the same thing is true about doctors and money. When they are unwilling or unable to talk about money, bad things happen. And so doctors really do need you to get to a foundation of financial health. But the thing is that you can't just go and talk to the doctor about money any more than somebody could just cold call you on the phone and say, I am wondering, how is your bowel function doing? It's sort of like, who is this person? Why should I talk about this intimate thing with this stranger? So one of the really great things about ABS is that you are trained and steeped in the culture of medicine. So you know how to approach doctors in a way that's really going to work. And understanding this cultural divide between the world of business and the world of medicine is critical. Patrick, can I tell the Shark Tank story?
Oh, yes, I'd love to hear this story.
Okay, so I always worry about boring Patrick with my stories. So I love Shark Tank. I learned so much as an entrepreneur.
I did too.
And so one day a doctor went into the Shark Tank pitching his business, Syndavers. They sold synthetic cadavers. This is like $1 billion industry. The guy already had like $10 million in sales. He gave a demo and all of the sharks were engaged. And I thought to myself, man, this guy's going to get a 5-shark deal. But then the questions started. Mr. Wonderful started saying, tell me about your revenue. Tell me about your profitability. And on national TV, this doctor actually said, well, I guess I could be making money, but money's really not that important to me. It's about making a difference.
Oh, my goodness.
And with that kind of answer, not giving the sharks what they wanted, he didn't get what he wanted either, which was to get a deal. He got one deal with Robert Herjavec that fell apart within a week. Yet I see business people go into doctors' offices and essentially make the same mistake. Because if you don't understand what a doctor wants to hear, you're not going to get an audience. You're not going to get a yes. So my secret sauce is really helping understand these cultural divides between the world of business and the world of medicine, and then crossing this bridge. So every day I help people build business relationships with doctors. There really is a way of doing it. In fact, Patrick and I have recorded an entire course about this, the Cracking the Physician Code course. In addition, you're going to get complete training. You're going to get the best practices that have allowed the licensees to get the kinds of results that lead to these testimonials. So there really is a proven path to success. You don't have to be the top salesperson at Merck in order to be able to acquire doctor clients. This is something that everyone can learn. And it doesn't mean you have to learn how to be really salesy. It doesn't mean that you've got to be a different person. It just means learning how to be who you are and say the right things in the right order in order to engage a doctor in conversation. And the great thing for you is it's not like you're selling ice to the Eskimos. I mean, you are selling something that doctors want and need today. Doctors want to retain their autonomy. They just can't figure out how. And you could potentially be that missing piece for doctors.
Yeah, I just got to thinking about that. You and I, of course, have already written the one book here that I just had on the screen. I'll go back to that in a second because we want to talk about how we intended for that book to be used by our licensees to go out and engage with doctors. But as you know, we're working on another book. Now, I don't think that I have shown you this latest incarnation, maybe, Vicki, but as you know, we've been working back and forth on this for some time. So let me just show you what I've come up with here for our the cover of our new book.
Oh, I can't wait. Lovely.
Yeah. Okay, so folks, this book, I'm going to just tell you right up front, even though my name's on the cover, a lot of this content, of course, is directly from Dr. Vicki herself, even though I obviously have some knowledge and background in marketing to doctors, having done this for 23 years too. She obviously, as a doctor, has some insight that I would never have with doctors. But as you can see, this book, which, by the way, is not going to be for sale on the market. We are publishing this exclusively for our licensees. It is exactly what you need to do to get more doctor clients now. And if you don't have any doctor clients, then it's a really good book to have because you'll know how to get your first one. But look at the subtitle we put on, Your Blueprint for Explosive Business Growth by Acquiring All the Doctor Clients You Can Handle. Now that says it all right there. And Vicki, you've got some wonderful secrets in here that as I'm going through now and doing some more editing and rereading, it's incredible what you've put together in this book. I cannot wait to release this, and we should have this ready. Actually, I'm having some more editing done right now, Vicki. So literally, we'll be out with this book here in another month or so.
Okay, well, that's great. But the thing that's important for you to know if you're considering this business opportunity is the content is available right now. I mean, this is basically the workbook for an entire course that's already sort of in the can and on the site. And, you know, I don't know if you've spoken with people about working with doctors. And there are all sorts of people who say things like, oh, you just can't work with doctors. You can't get in front of them. You can't get them as clients. And the reality is you can, but you've got to know how. Like if you ever travel internationally, I'm sure that ahead of time you study the customs and the traditions so that you fit in. And, you know, here's a book by a doctor who is sort of your cultural liaison, showing you the way things work in the world of medicine so that you can be successful. So this is, you know, it's a great business model. It's needed. You're going to be doing well by doing good, and you're going to be taken step by step on the path to success. What more could you want from a business opportunity?
Well, and that's the great thing is that we really are helping the doctors in our community thrive in medical practice, and the patients, you know, because the patients get benefits from this as well. They don't have to wait as long. If we get the doctor out of one room seeing the one patient to the next patient a little quicker because maybe we've freed up their staff to do that, it's a wonderful way of you know, helping patients as well. So let's just touch on this book just for a second, Dr. Rackner. We finished this up, I think, the last part of last year, and as you know, we've just come out with a customized version of this book. Now, it's kind of hard to see from this slide, so I'm going to slide the cover up here on the slide itself and enlarge it so you guys can see this. Look at the bottom of this book here. You'll notice that we've got a foreword that has been pre-written, of course, for the book, very generic, that you can put your name on. So literally, they have their name on the cover of a book with an MD. Dr. Vicki, this doesn't get any better from a marketing standpoint that I can think of. Can you think of any tool that someone calling on doctors could utilize more than a book that they give to a doctor as a gift? They can buy these for like $4 a copy or something like that. Ridiculous, our printing price. The New Thriving Medical Practice, How to Get Off the Hamster Wheel, Work Smarter, Not Harder, Generate More Revenue, and Enjoy Greater Career Satisfaction in the Post-Obamacare Era. Now, we say that because we don't know what's going to happen to the Obamacare American Health Care Act. Maybe replace it, who knows. But the point is, we are past that section of our history, and now we're in a different era, which most people are confused about. Doctors certainly are. And doctors love this book. Vicki, I've had such huge response from our licensees. One that I interviewed just a few months back said that she had gotten 3 copies of the book. She took them out to three different prospective clients that she'd had, some contact with, I guess. Anyway, she gave those books as copies to those doctors as gifts. Now, they're not clients, they're just prospective clients. They were doing their own billing, I think, all 3 of these doctors. Every one of them, all 3 of them, in a week's time called her up and said, you know what, I read some of the stuff you had marked in the book for me to read, and I need to talk to you. I want to talk to you. So hey, that's all you want as a marketing person. You want somebody to call you up and say, come tell me more.
Well, do you have that handy by any chance, Patrick, the things that you marked up?
I do. I have just a picture of us showing it here, that what we do is go through in the classroom, in the workshop, we take copies of this book, and we turn to the pages that have some highlighted sections that if a doctor reads that highlighted section right there, they will want to know more. And then we mark them, as you can see, with the little tabs there. It's a great marketing tool, and when we hand this to a doctor, they don't know what to think about it. In fact, Dr. Vicki, I think you just told me the other day, Patrick, you probably wouldn't have to highlight but 1 or 2 pages there. Show that to a doctor, they'll get it, they'll flip through it, they'll read more of it, and hopefully they call you and ask you to come out and do that free practice analysis that we teach.
Absolutely. So I will just tell you that the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. And doctors gossip kind of like teenage girls. So they get together in the doctor's dining room and the surgeon's lounge. And if you do a really, really great job for a doctor, they're going to talk about it. And you can help them get some pretty dramatic results. And so, not only are you getting 1 doctor client, but you could potentially get 10 new doctor clients from that 1 doctor client that you've delighted. But I think that something that's pretty unique about this ABS opportunity is that you get to stand on my shoulders. You get to give away a book that's not just been written by somebody like Patrick with his business expertise and his vast experience in this industry, but also with a doctor, and that has tremendous value. The fact that my name is on this book means that doctors are really going to pay attention to that. Oops, I forgot to turn off my phone, Patrick. I'm sorry about that. Let me just grab it.
Okay. Well, and you hit on it a while ago, Dr. Vicki. This is important for licensees to realize that by basically partnering with a doctor, I mean, your name is on the same book as that doctor, right? We've given you the partnership with Dr. Vicki now to be able to speak with some credibility because, again, her voice is behind yours, and since doctors love to hear from other doctors, there you go. That's how this all ties together.
Absolutely. And, if let's say you're thinking about either joining ABS or, maybe taking a coding course and just trying to do it on your own. Well, first of all, I don't recommend that. Because you are going to have to learn a lot of stuff the hard way. I mean, why not just come and have best practices and proven strategies and tactics to do it? But you're also not going to have a doctor in your corner. You're not going to have a doctor on your team. And I think the value of that is just huge.
You can't really, when we conceived of this marketing tool more than a year ago, I guess it was, Dr. Vicki, I mean, I couldn't even conceive of what tool could we give to our licensees that would be more important in getting in to see the doctor, because by giving them a gift of a book that doesn't cost you hardly anything compared to what it costs, I mean, it sells for $24.95 on Amazon. The doctor sees it as not only just a valuable gift that you've given them, it's that credibility of having, oh, a doctor wrote this. Now, the fact that your name is right there on the bottom of the book, you see, as having written the foreword, just adds that much more credibility. Your name is on the title page when they open the book right there with Dr. Vicki's name and mine. And the foreword, which we've already written, is a real simple 2-page foreword that ties it in to you being colleagues with us. And then look at this. At the end of the foreword, you get to put your contact information right here. Again, Vicki, for a handout, let's call it a business card, right? As a business card, it doesn't get any better than this. To hand this to the doctor and have it sit there on there. Look, they don't throw away a book. Nobody throws away a book. They may not read it, but when they see it marked up, let's see if I have that one here. I think I've got it right here. This is one that we marked up. Oh, phooey. I think what did I do? Here. You hear me off in the background. This is live. Look at this. This is what it looks like when you hand it to the doctor. See, we got the little tabs in there, and then we do have some highlighted sections. See, on that page, there's something now. The doctors just are fascinated by this because they've never been handed a book that has these markings and highlightings in there. They're just like, by the time they flip through these, I don't know, half a dozen or whatever you got here, all they want to do is talk to somebody about the problems that they're seeing here because they start identifying, oh, wait a minute, maybe I have that same problem. So. Right.
I can tell you that ever since the myth of the rich doctor has come out, this thing kind of went viral. And so I have been off speaking about once a week. And one of my clients who's a financial advisor, and by the way, I think for you, financial advisors make terrific power partners because there are some financial advisors who just work with doctors, right? They want to help doctors be more successful, and you can really be the person to help make them more successful. So this advisor invited me to come out for a book signing. So he just had a little social event and a book signing, and over 100 doctors showed up to this event.
Isn't that fascinating? It shows you that doctors still want to learn, they're still curious, and they certainly want to hear from another doctor.
Yes.
On a topic like the myth of the rich doctor, I would want to know about that for sure if I were a doctor, because if I haven't made the money that I thought that I was going to make, I would go, okay, this sounds like a myth. Let's see what this doctor has to say about this myth. So it's a very, very timely topic for you to come up with, Dr. Vicki. I don't know how you do it. You keep coming up with these books, and they're just perfect for this marketplace and this time. Well, look, we got a few questions coming in here. Do you mind if we address some of these live?
Absolutely.
I think we told the story that we wanted to tell, and people are either convinced that we're for real or they should continue coming to these webinars or not. So let's address some of their questions. Here's Pam. I'm not sure what this question means, Pam. You may have to clarify this. Sometimes it's hard, I know, in writing to put down what you want. It says, does the process of conceiving and signing up, in parentheses, contract, explained? So if you're asking if we're going to go through the explanation of exactly how you sign the doctor up, that's not the topic of this webinar. We do have webinars where Dr. Vicki and I have specifically zeroed in on how to sign up doctors.
I wonder if she's talking about how do you sign up for ABS?
Well, that's a great idea too. I hadn't even thought about that, but if you want to sign up with ABS, Pam, you get back with the person who sent you the email inviting you to this webinar. And I'll have our phone number on the screen here in just a moment as well. I'm just letting some other slides show there while we're talking. Okay, so here's one from Lisette. Hope I'm saying that right. Can this system be used for ERs and urgent care clinics? Well, yes, not only that, but any specialty that's out there. Dr. Vicki, there must be, what, I don't know, dozens of specialties that they can bill for.
Absolutely. So I believe that success is really about focus. And could you focus on like the doc in the boxes and the urgent care and ER care? Absolutely. They still do the same thing. You know, they see patients, they get these codes, and they send the codes off to the insurance companies to get paid. So you could absolutely focus there. And, you know, people who work in the ER, they talk with other people who work in the ER. The administrators talk to other administrators. They go to association meetings. And so you can do that successfully. And then you know, you might invite them to pass along the new thriving medical practice. Maybe you give them 5 copies and invite them to share it with 5 of their colleagues. And in that way, really build up your marketing momentum within a group of doctors. You want to become the go-to guy or gal within sort of targeted groups of doctors, targeted tribes.
Yeah, and part of that, of course, is our training on how they can network. Networking is foreign to some people, but if you've been in business, you know it's connecting with other professionals in your area that want to connect with the same people that you want to connect with, and networking and finding out how to be power partners, as Dr. Vicki mentioned a while ago. So yes, we've got lots and lots of licensees who do engage in that type of thing, and it's hard to go through everything in every webinar that we'd like to, isn't it? Because there's just so much to cover. Here's one from, let's see, this is Claire. Dr. Vicki mentioned that when she first started out with her practice, she found that she wanted to outsource the billing. How did she find that first medical biller or accounting firm?
Okay, so this is how doctors work. What did I do? I went to my buddy that I trusted and I said, hey, who does your billing for you? Sue does. Does she do a good job? Oh yeah, I definitely hire her again. I didn't interview anyone. I mean, that's who I went to, just because of the power of these personal relationships among doctors.
Yeah, it is a very personal relationship, and that's why if you do a good job for one doctor in your area, they probably know the other doctors in your area, and they will refer those doctors to you. So your business grows just from word of mouth.
Absolutely.
Of course, it works just the opposite too. If you do a bad job, that word of mouth will spread as well. So
that's true too. And let me just say that it's not like my biller was perfect. She made mistakes. There were problems, but she was accountable. You know, she said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Here, I fixed it for you. This is what's going on. And so, you know, I don't think any doctor is expecting anybody to be perfect, but they are expecting you to be accountable and to have the right intention.
Right, that's all they're looking for. They want to work with somebody that they can trust. And part of that trust comes from building up credibility. The credibility comes from being an expert that has participated in the publishing of a book for doctors, by a doctor. Okay, let's see. Payam says, can you explain the steps needed from the patient's visit by the doctor until the claim is going to an insurance company? Payam, probably the best way to have you see that is on one of the webinars that we did recently on the exact steps that you take using our system. Again, we do these webinars every week, and this one just happens to be with Dr. Vicki talking about how to engage with doctors and build your business. So the details that you're asking for there is something that you would get in one of the other webinars that you see on our website. Just go to absystems.com, and then under News, click on Blog, and just browse through that and read and watch some of those previous webinars. Or tune in next week. We're going to go into detail next week by covering how to get past the gatekeeper and get eyeball to eyeball with doctors. So that'll be an interesting one too. Okay, let's see. Lisette says, do you give the book to each office when you go leave your information? Well, Lisette, we don't recommend giving the book just out like candy to, you know, just passing it out, because again, at $4 a copy, it could get expensive to do that. But yes, in general, you're going to be using that book all the time with all the contacts that you make with doctors. We'll show you exactly when you give the book, what you say when you give the book, and how to get back with them after you've you know, let them look at the book. So there's a process there. It's a system that we teach on how to do that. Wanda says, how are you able to track how much money is received by the doctor to receive your percentage of the collected receivables? Okay, so at least Wanda has figured out from this webinar, Dr. Vicki, that you're charging, and I'm not sure that you must have done the same thing with your biller. Did you pay a percentage of the money collected?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's typical. It runs typically now nationwide about 5 to 8%. I guess it depends on the area of the country you're in. Years ago, we could get 10%. Now it's it's less than that, but it's probably averaging 6.5, 7 right now from all of our licensees nationwide. So, but the way you track that, Wanda, is in our system. It actually shows you. Remember, it's a cloud-based system. So as soon as the money comes in from the insurance companies and that their office records that in our system, boom, you have access to that, and you can see that at the end of the month, and you know exactly how much money you actually collected for the doctor, and therefore what to send your invoice for. Okay.
May I just interrupt here, Patrick?
Sure.
You might imagine that if you asked a doctor, what are your monthly expenses, or, what percentage of your claims are rejected, or what percentage of your claims are paid, you would know that because that's pretty basic business information.
Yeah.
But the reality is that very few doctors really know. And so just to be able to have these reports so that a doctor can sort of get the vital signs of their business is huge. And what that also means is that you can demonstrate your value. Doctor, when we first met, do you remember how things were going? You were wondering, should I take out a line of credit to meet my expenses? And you were walking away from about 30% of your income. Well, let's take a look at where you are now. And you can show them their value. So you're not talking about the 7% that you were keeping. You're talking about how you've improved their condition.
Exactly. It's all about improvement over what happened before you got there.
Right. I love those before and after makeover kinds of shows with weight loss or home improvement. And you can do these pretty impressive before and after pictures with doctors.
Yes, you can. Let's see. Here's one from Raymond, and I'm going to let you kind of jump in on this, Dr. Vicki, because you may know more than I do about this. But he's just asking, what's the liabilities? What are the liability issues? I guess billing for a doctor, there's probably some liability issues, although we've never run into any in 23 years. Is there insurance available, for example, that can kind of cover that kind of stuff?
This is actually really interesting because doctors are very worried about risk issues. And I just heard this story recently that sort of curled my toes. So doctors are required to keep things private, right? HIPAA, every time you see a doctor, you sign a HIPAA form. And so, medical information is trusted information. Well, this office manager went on vacation. She took her laptop with her and she left it on a plane.
Left the laptop on a plane?
On a plane, yes.
Oh, gosh.
And the laptop had some medical records on it. Well, there's a $250,000 fine per medical record that's lost.
50,000 per?
250,000 per patient record. And so a doctor is aware of these kinds of things, and actually the doctor takes out, all sorts of insurance. They buy medical malpractice insurance. They will often get an errors and omission policy. So
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah, errors and omissions. Yeah.
And there are cybersecurity insurance policies that they take out. And I think most doctors, are afraid of these kinds of things because they could just imagine something like that happening. So yes, generally the doctors are protecting themselves. Patrick, what do you say to your own licensees about their insurance policies? Do you recommend that licensees carry any sort of insurance?
Well, yes, that you mentioned earlier, the errors and omissions is very inexpensive insurance that you can cover you for $1 million for like $600 a year. It's not that expensive. However, having said that, I don't know of anybody who's actually taken that kind of policy out, but it's out there, and I know that that's something that's important to some people. Some people like to be insured for everything that can happen to them in their entire life, So, but you know what? The liability goes back to this. If you're an honest person and you're doing what the doctor has instructed you to do, it's the doctor's responsibility. If they give you a code and you put that in, you can't be responsible for a code that the doctor gave you. So I tell them, don't be creative, don't make up anything. That has been done, and people get in trouble doing that.
They most certainly can. They can. And, you know, this is actually another reason why doctors are interested in outsourcing their billing. You know, for the first time since Medicare's inception, you can now go to Medicare and say, okay, how much does Dr. Wilson get? How much, you know, did Medicare pay him last year? And this is available now to the public. And once this data became available, the people who, you know, count the beans noticed that there was an awful lot of money going to certain doctors. And they thought, okay, well, maybe these doctors are cheating. And so now there's a special committee to take a look at Medicare fraud. And one of the benefits of outsourcing is that you get to color in the lines, right? Like doctors are going to find out what's okay and the kinds of things that might not be okay, that might make them vulnerable for some kind of Medicare fraud investigation.
Sure. This is an interesting question. Claire says, how does the ABS make money? As I understand it, it's a one-time pay fee for the software, hence licensee rather than franchisees. So if there's no royalties, are your revenues from software upgrades? No. Claire, we don't have any fees. After you've paid our licensing fee, there are no ongoing fees for upgrades, user seats, support, training, all that's included, and it's lifetime. And people ask us how we do that. Basically, we do make a few pennies off of all the claims that go through the system. So from our technology partners, we are making some money on the back end, and that's why we want you to sign up as many doctors and file as many claims as possible. We make money on the back end there as well. Ada says, I'm not sure you're seeing my questions. Ada, maybe I've deleted one that I didn't answer. It's easy on this little question thing here to hit a little trash can by your question, and it just disappears before you realize it. So I don't know if I've skipped one of your questions or not there. You might re-ask that. Lisette says, is it hard to approach an office and reach the doctor and not make their staff feel like they could be replaced by this system? That's a good question. Doctors' staff, probably some of them are concerned that if I'm doing the billing and you're coming in and you won't doing the billing, you're going to take my job.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think in training, you know, Cynthia, who's very, very successful, does a great job of dealing with this question. The gatekeeper has a tough job. You know, I was a surgeon. I had my own gatekeeper, and she could make me mad in two ways. She could bug me with stuff I didn't want to be bugged with, but she could also err on the side of not sharing something that I would want to see. Like if you came in and gave the New Thriving Medical Practice book to my gatekeeper and that didn't get to me, I'd be mad. So it's a delicate balance. But here's the other thing that's important for you to remember. Of all of the sort of retail industry, the medical industry is one of the highest fraud industries. So there's a lot of office managers who are out there who don't want to outsource their billing because they're stealing the doctor blind. And that's not going to happen. So you're going to learn all sorts of ways of engaging doctors and dealing with the office staff. But just know that as you move on, if you're meeting a lot of resistance from one particular individual, it may be that this is not a good social citizen, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, that's what marketing is all about. Some of those prospective clients in your community are going to engage with you, and some are not ever going to engage with you because they think that their situation is under control, their billing. And they've either got it in-house or they've outsourced it already and they're happy. So what? There's other doctors that are switching out all the time. Folks, we sign up doctors every day from our licensees all over the country. And so how are those doctors? I mean, they're either doing the billing themselves already, they're not all brand new doctors, or they've already outsourced it to somebody else, but they're not happy with them. So we go in and make the doctor not happy with their current situation. it's just like anything in any lab. You find the pain and you rub it a little bit, and people start realizing, oh, that does hurt. I didn't realize that was hurt until you started rubbing on it. So we're going to go in and rub on the pain for sure when we start talking about that, doctor. Well, Dr. Vicki, here it is. It's 4:59. We took up the whole hour, and I thought I'd let you go early. Sorry.
Well, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. And listen, there's one thing I just want to end with, and that's that what I've learned over the years.
I just lost you. I can't hear a thing.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, I hear you now. No, sorry.
Okay. So what I've discovered over the years, the 20 years as an entrepreneur, is that relationships are really important. I want to pay really close attention to the people that I work with. And it has been such a pleasure and delight to be working with ABS for the past 3 years. You know, there's a lot of people who do billing out there. And I wanted to support somebody who was going to be doing billing. And Patrick and his whole team at ABS have just shown that they are people of integrity. Their mentions, you know, Patrick and I have done an awful lot of projects over the years, and so he pays me, he makes investments in me, and none of his licensees have seen a single bill for that. But that's the kind of guy that Patrick is, and that's the kind of organization is. They are constantly making investments to help you be more successful. And Patrick, I just want to thank you. It's just been such a pleasure to work with you over these past years.
Well, you don't know what a blessing has been to our licensees. How many other doctors are out there in the world that not only did you outsource your billing, but you've written books to help people to engage with doctors. That is very unique in the marketplace today, and I want to support you in whatever ways I can in that respect as well, Dr. Vicki. So yes, you do charge huge bills to me for doing this kind of thing, but I know how important it is that people hear from you as a doctor with your background and experience. It goes way beyond anything that I could ever say, so thank you very much for your time.
It's my pleasure. I'm going to say goodbye.
Yes, thanks. Bye-bye for now.